Hi everyone! Let me start the talk today by sharing with you a few of my favorite Chinese games before 2019. Hopefully, you'll pick your interest for the topic. In 2018, I went to Beijing for one of the biggest, also most expensive games so far for myself, called The Ghouls by Youyu Entertainment. The size of the game is around 2,800 square meter for a group of 6 to 9 people. The game lasts 3 hours and costs around $100 per person. It's an official collaboration with a very popular Chinese novel that has been adapted into multiple movies and TV series named Candle in the Tomb. The game delivered exact replicas of more than 20 movie scenes, including villages, forests, cliffs, and caves, etc. At the beginning of the game, we were given a head-to-toe costume as a gravedigger, even including shoes, and a backpack with a spare set of clothes. At one stage of the game, there was a sobbing little girl who begged us to save her parents who had fallen into a cave. Being the heroes, we jumped straight in to the 4-meter deep water without realizing her evil plan to drown all of us. The water soon started rising, and the only way out was to find a mechanism to drain the water at the bottom of the cave. When we finally managed to climb out the other way, fully soaked, there was a beautiful hot spring plus a very convenient changing room with showers waiting for you. By the way, to get out of the game alive, you will need to sacrifice one of your team members. So in Chengdu, there's a famous game designer that people refer to as Master Huang, who's known for his creativity in puzzle designs and unique room transitions. His games are all executed single-handedly by himself. The Lost Paradise in particular is so out of the box that attracted enthusiasts all over the country. I still remember to date how shocked I was when I pressed a flush button of a toilet. The entire bathroom became an elevator and raised up to reveal the entry of a ventilation duct, where you have to climb up and roll down through a children's slide. The climax of the game was when the player pushed in the back of a utility closet full of brooms and mops. There was a life-size tank right in front of your eyes. The story was set in a kindergarten that was essentially a cover-up front for a weapon smuggler, and your exit was through a secret tunnel inside a wardrobe to the bottom of a clip door machine out of the lobby. Horror games with live actors are usually way more scarier than the ones without, since you have no idea when and where an NPC would pop up. An exception, however, is the game Mingshan Girls' School by Second World in Shanghai, a game I played in 2017. It scared the crap out of me purely with mechanical designs. So the sound, music, visual, and electronics were all terrifying and on point. The game is set in a haunted Japanese girls' school. There were descending floors, and the picture frames would suddenly drop and change into something distorting and horrifying. The ceiling would suddenly fall with a row of incredibly realistic silicone heads staring straight at you. There were also flashing holograms mimicking the ghost images. At one point, you would walk into a rectangular stand studio that had full-sized mirrors all over the walls. What you don't know is that the mirrors were all one-way see-through, with a girl's mannequin standing right behind each one of them. When the lights started flashing, trust me, you'll probably question the choices you made to go into the game when one of their heads started turning. A brief history. I can talk about games for days, but let's get back to the topic. Chinese escape rooms went through several development cycles. There's always controversy over the numerical generations, but the timeline is as follows. In 2011, Scrap from Japan brought the first escape room to Shanghai. Soon, more games were created by enthusiasts, focusing on search and find, physical and numerical puzzles with padlocks and keys, mostly in single rooms smaller than 20 square meter. At this stage, games typically cost around $10 per person and were essentially all about puzzle solving within an hour. There wasn't much entry barrier yet, and return on investment could be quickly achieved within 3 to 6 months. The brainy activity attracted many university students with science and engineering backgrounds, especially in Beijing and Shanghai, and cultivated the primary talent pool of potential escape room owners. 2012 marks the beginning of the industry, with the first batch of venues popping up all over the country. Most games started adopting electronic devices such as maglocks and sensors, along with simple sound and light control to create horror, tension and suspense. At this point, a few industry leaders started utilizing automated control units like PCBs and PLCs, along with large-scale mechanical puzzles. This was when we first had infrareds, lasers, elevating floors, and moving rooms from Mr. X and Onscape. However, the industry was still at an initial developing stage with a niche group of enthusiasts. The designs started diversifying depending on the backgrounds of the owners. People started paying attention to the number of rooms, space transition, mechanisms, and background story. The price of the games increased to around $20 per person and 50 square meter in size, with the larger ones approaching 100. Some of the games were extended to 90 minutes instead of 60. Generally, majority of the games only had a brief background story that was barely associated with any of the puzzles and were typically inspired by international movie hits, such as Sherlock Holmes, Saw, Prison Break, Harry Potter, etc. In 2014, Shanghai Mofang launched a game called The Assassination, and introduced original narrative escape rooms. Instead of being a hero, the players were blackmailed to kill someone. The game is still playable after 7 years. It emphasizes on the cohesive integration of the puzzles, props, and plots. The puzzles are no longer about codes. It has a plot twist with customized props in line with the game logic. Every puzzle in the room makes complete sense to serve the story. The players are fully engaged in a less than 20 square meter hotel room with tension and suspense. Its creative designs and tight logic has made a mark in the history of Chinese escape rooms and inspired many designers and players ever since. Soon, the more developed companies started collaborating with popular Chinese TV and film IPs to launch themed escape rooms. With the help from the professionals, all design elements were elevated, refined and polished to the next level, including graphics, props, mechanics, and sets. 2016 was a very important year. Two major events completely revamped the reality entertainment industry in China. In March, Mango TV launched a celebrity-led murder mystery variety show called The Who's Murderer. The show became an instant hit with its live-action roleplay. Later in December, SMG Live brought the famous immersive theater Sleep No More from Punch Drunk to Shanghai, which introduced the concept of immersive experience to the market. Both events were so successful that they each stimulated an industry of their own in the very next few years. Driven by the market demand, the industry was heavily influenced to shift towards immersive experience, incorporating live NPCs and costumes. To stand out from competitors, some of the companies started adopting advanced technology such as holograms, water curtains, naked 3D, projection mapping, handheld PDA, and wearables. By then, the steep increase in footage and building cost directly resulted in the average price to be more than doubled to $45 per person for a 2-hour experience. Nationwide, more than 50% of the games were centralized in the top 3 regions, but the game styles varied drastically. Players from Chengdu and Chongqing in the southwest particularly prefer horror games. The scarier, the better. Beijing players love the drama to improvise with NPCs, whilst players in Shanghai are more tolerant with a mix of everything. On a side note, Guangzhou focuses much more on smaller-scale narrative escape rooms with heavier puzzle solving. In 2017, the first Chinese Industry Summit was launched by the NGO Escape Game Alliance in Shanghai, and the first official governmental society for reality entertainment was also formed with more than 50 industry leaders under China Culture and Entertainment Industry Association. The industry entered a booming period with a franchising craze both domestically and globally ever since. In March 2019, Mango TV launched another variety show called The Great Escape. The program worked with game designers from the industry and brought escape rooms to the screen for the first time. There are 2 versions of the show, one with celebrities and one with gaming experts. It soon became one of the most popular entertainment shows of 2019 and made a significant contribution in raising awareness amongst the general public for the industry. more than 700 new escape venues opened within 3 months of the first episode being aired. To recognize the impact, EGA awarded the show a special contribution award. The show undoubtedly played a major role in promoting the industry from a niche market to a mainstream leisure activity for the younger generation. One of the celebrities in the show, Deng Luan, even opened his own escape room recently in Shanghai. To date, there are 14 similar variety shows airing across different channels, including iQIYI and Youku, along with many more live streaming channels from influencers across different social media platforms. There were also 2 major studies published this year, the Enthusiast Survey and the Consumer Insight Reports. This was the first time that Codex worked with EGA to incorporate data from Chinese players. They successfully collected less than 2,000 surveys across 168 cities. The survey was able to deliver a rough portrait of a Chinese escape room enthusiast. I won't go into too much details here. You can find out more on Codex's website. The survey showed that 290 people, 15% of the participants, played more than 50 games each, with the most being 2,137 games by 2019. About 32% of the respondents play more than 4 games in a day, with the most reaching 30. You may wonder how this is even possible, since the Guinness record of 2020 was 25 rooms within 24 hours. This is facilitated by the fact that escape rooms are typically located in centralized commercial districts in different cities. According to stats from EGA in 2019, there were more than 80 venues in a high street named Chunxi Road and 34 in a single business complex, the Poly Center in Chengdu. Meituan Research Institute published a consumer insight report detailing some of the industry stats. Meituan is a Chinese centralized online booking/review platform for all kinds of services, including more than 75% of the escape room venues. As the number of players increases for bigger games, it was getting more and more difficult for players to find enough teammates. In 2017, the platform specifically created a ticket reservation system for escape room venues where a booking is only created when the number of players reaches the minimum requirement. This function has helped the industry tremendously to increase the ticket sales from small private bookings to large public ones. In 2020, the platform also launched a rolling ticket system where the games can start every half an hour or an hour for longer games. In addition, from 2021, the venues are able to promote EGA award-winning games with an official tag on the platform for authenticity. The report disclosed that 84% of the players fall into the age group of 20 to 35-year-old. There were in total 2.6 million Chinese consumers that booked an escape room in 2019, with an average sale of $38 per person, out of which 41,000 had booked more than 5 games a year. There were more than 10,000 escape room companies with more than 15,000 stores, and the industry had produced more than 1 million games in total. By the end of 2019, the market size of the industry had doubled from 2018 to the major milestone of 10 billion yuan, which is equivalent to $155 million. The figures suggested a compound growth rate of more than 60% for the market size of $24 million at 2015. The ratio of companies over stores reflects the degree of franchising. From 2018 to 2019, the market expansion was largely achieved through franchising. The number of stores had increased by 42%, but the number of companies had only increased by 10%. Especially in the top 3 regions mentioned earlier, 50% of the companies had more than 4 stores on average. During the lockdown, EGA carried out a survey for 833 venues and found that 95% were temporarily closed with no revenues at all in February 2020. The entire industry was in despair and people were losing hope for recovery. Around 45% of the owners were expected to last 3 months at most. To everyone's surprise, the market quickly rebounded right after reopening Q2. By July, 88% of venues reopened in the rest of the country besides Beijing. The ticket sales more than doubled from the first quarter. By the end of 2020, the number of escape room venues actually increased by 50% with a market size of $190 million. As a location-specific activity, escape rooms have always faced 2 major challenges: limited sales per square meter and low repurchase rate. The challenges were further magnified as games become bigger and more expensive to build and manage. To combat the problems, industry started exploring rolling entries and replayable game modes. It started adopting creative game elements and mechanics from video games, such as quests, roles, classes, teams, combats, perks, abilities, game currency, and reward system, etc. The newest generation of reality games in China has long evolved from conventional puzzle-based escape games to immersive live RPG games, which fuses the elements of all three forms of reality entertainment: escape rooms, murder mystery, and immersive theater. In the current market, an RPG game in Beijing or Shanghai usually lasts more than 2.5 hours, with a minimum of 500 square meters in size, and costs more than the ticket price of Disneyland Shanghai at $60 per person. From a design perspective, instead of focusing how the team proceeds as a group, the experience is much more refined down to the individual participant. Players have transitioned from a third-party investigator to a participating role that shapes how the story develops. They have higher degrees of freedom in an open gameplay with multiple characters, storylines, and endings. There may be a handful of major tasks with hundreds of minor plots. Different clues and new plots will be unraveled when players interact with other players and NPCs. You may even trigger a surprise ending. Depending on your choices, the experience is different for every participant. The sets are no longer enclosed in a confined space, but rather extended to an open area within a comprehensive infrastructure: a ship, a hotel, a street, a town, or even a city, with more collaborations across real estate, culture, tourism, television, and gaming industry. The execution is no longer the challenge. The pressure has shifted towards content creation, with a balanced combination of art, tech, and culture. Even though the three forms of reality entertainment overlap a lot of design elements, they do compete for the same target age group. It's worthwhile to take a look at other two industries, respectively. The murder mystery market started in 2013 when the board game Death Wears White entered China from UK. The activity only became popular in 2016 with the TV show Who's the Murderer. The industry first took off with online development for mobile applications, funded with the help of capital investments in 2017. Within 2 years, the Chinese-style murder mystery evolved to include much more complex game mechanics, combining costumes, role-play, performances, emotional, and detective elements. As the industry grows, the online platforms, including streaming channels, have also started building large-scale offline venues to monetize the digital traffic. 我是迷, one of the major mobile apps with 30 million users, now has 43 venues and 4 large-scale immersive centers. In 2020, Mango TV launched a temporary event, Youth Mango City, in an exhibition center of 22,000 square meters, and adapted 7 popular variety shows into interactive experiences for the public, including scenes from both The Great Escape and Who's the Murderer. They officially entered the market in 2021 with their own murder mystery venues, MCT. In addition, both video platform giants, Mango TV and iQIYI, are developing VR-based murder mystery experience centers utilizing their vast number of content IPs. The offline venues started growing exponentially from 2019. The number of venues soared from 2,400 in January to 12,000 by the end of the year. The market size has also exceeded the threshold of 10 billion yuan. By 2020, excluding the 4,000 that closed during the pandemic, there were more than 30,000 venues in total and 18 script exhibitions nationwide. A typical murder mystery game lasts 2 to 5 hours with 5 to 10, 15 players and a host, usually referred to as a dungeon master. There are 2 different types: live crime scene investigation or tabletop deduction. The live versions are much similar to an escape room, whereas the table versions require a lot less footage and capital investment. Industry growth is also backed by the government. In March 2021, the governmental organization of Immersive Entertainment Specialized Committee was formed under China Culture and Entertainment Industry Association. The Ministry of Culture and Tourism of China has officially documented in the government's 5-year plan for 2021 to 2025 to execute at least 100 immersive projects across urban complex, public space, tourist attractions, and other industries. Moving on to immersive theater. It all started in 2016. It took Shanghai Media Group 2 years to work with Punch Drunk to redesign and bring Sleep No More to Shanghai. They transformed a 6-story abandoned building with 6,000 square meters and more than 90 rooms to the 1930s McKinnon Hotel. It took half a year to cast the actors globally across London, New York, Shanghai, and Beijing, along with 7 containers of sets and props shipped from New York. The show pre-sold 10,000 tickets within 100 hours of opening, earning 6 million yuan, setting a new sales record for the performance industry. By their 3rd anniversary, the company disclosed a few figures: 917 performances, 300,000 viewers, and a total revenue of $42 million. An average ticket price of $110, the tickets were constantly sold out 3 months in advance. The show has definitely become a landmark in Shanghai and pushed the entire immersive industry forward in China. Zhi Ying Hao is a multi-dimensional immersive theater set on a vintage cruise drifting in the Yangtze River in Wuhan. The size of the ship is 5,700 square meters and has 98 cabins spread across 4 floors and is able to take more than 400 participants at once. There are 108 actors guiding you through a historical journey back to the 1920s. The ticket costs $35 per person. The players can move freely around the entire ship to discover the stories of different passengers around each corner. The highlights of the experience happens on this beautifully crafted ballroom with a performance of professional dancers. On the 3rd floor, the players can enter different cabins based on the ticket number, where it's fully decorated with props, costumes, and a giveaway postcard. There are rental options for more than 600 costume selections. You can even book a personal photographer. Eventually, everyone will end up on the top deck to enjoy the night view of the city, accompanied by a jazz band. Since March 20th of 2021, the ship is also used as a venue once a week for an immersive RPG game called Reef, the Yangtze Special. For 3 hours, more than 200 players can run freely in the entire ship, exploring more than 120 plots with 26 NPCs and 5 immersive performances. Tickets cost around $62 and the game lasts 3 hours. Unique Henan, the land of drama, is comprised of 21 theaters and was launched in Zhengzhou, the capital of Henan, on June 6th this year. This is the largest immersive theater complex in the world, covering a total area of 415,000 square meters, with more than 30 shows and 10,000 visitors a day. It took 4 years to complete and a total investment of $93 million from Jianye Real Estate Group. The complex is aimed to showcase the historical, traditional, and cultural stories of Yangtze River civilization via food, land, and inheritance. The attraction was designed by the renowned artistic director Wang Chaoge, who co-directed the opening and closing ceremonies of Beijing Summer Olympic Games with Zhang Yimou and Fan Yue. The 3 of them co-created the Impression series in 2004 and revamped the performance industry in China by utilizing environmental backdrops such as mountains and rivers. Selected industry leaders. Let's have a look at 2 of the selected influential industry leaders. The Final Stages was founded in 2015 by Ma Yi, who used to be a director of a TV program in China Central Television. The company played a very important role in shifting the direction of escape rooms in China. It was one of the very first venues that claimed to be a super escape room, super referring to the size of the game. Their first location was launched in September 2015 in Beijing with 3,600 square meters for only 4 games. This was the first time that an escape room implemented and incorporated rows of live NPCs and the concept of cosplay. Players are requested to change into matching costumes for their characters and are encouraged to improvise with the actors within the game. The length of the gameplay is also extended from an hour to 2.5 to 3 hours. The average price per person has doubled from a mechanical room of around $23 to $43 per person. TFS has revolutionized the industry and started the era of roleplay in Chinese escape rooms. It also tackled one of the most major challenges of any escape room, that a player will not play the same game twice. Its games increased the repurchase rate to about 30%, since people can have different experiences depending on the role they choose to start with. Some of the players will even come back for a third try. In addition, TFS also proposed and organized a vast industry alliance across more than 80 different escape rooms in Beijing called My Group, hoping to attract more customers through affiliation and referral programs by strictly filtering out small-scale, low-quality games that lacked originality. In terms of funding, they received $1.5 million from investors in 2017. These are some sample photos of game costumes. Please note they're not promotional materials, they're just personal photos taken by players in the lobby after the game. Youyu Entertainment. Youyu, technically not an escape room, more of an immersive experience platform, was founded by Zheng Nan in 2016 with a registered capital of $7.7 million. Its revenue for 2019 exceeded $30 million. It also received $6.2 million from VCs in October 2020. The first location in Beijing, base number 1, was launched in March 2017 with an area of 20,000 square meters. The place is divided into 3 sections: Crazy Magic, Restaurant, and the Escape Room Factory. Crazy Magic is an offline experience center that replicated the sets of the same TV challenge show, very similar to Crystal Maze in the UK. It has 10 rooms for 10 challenges and is very popular among families with friends. The Escape Room Factory so far has 20 immersive games running, with the smallest starting from 300 square meters all the way up to 3,000. Majority of its games are bigger than 1,000 square meters. Recently, they have also launched 4 locations in Beijing for foreign experiences, including Thai, Arabic, Indian, and Egyptian, each with a space of more than 6,000 square meters. In 2017, the company attempted to work with the cultural and tourism industry for the first time. They partnered up with a tourist resort in China to create an immersive experience in the antique town of Yuyao with an area of 100,000 square meters. With 240 storylines and 10 plus major tasks, 300 to 400 players were able to travel back to 1911, interacting with hundreds of actors for a 2-day event. The all-inclusive ticket cost around $140 per person per day. Once you decided on a character, whether a doctor, an officer, a monk, or chivalry, you'll be fully dressed accordingly and given an initial task. Then the game goes wherever the player leads. You can lurk into a 3,000 square meter warlord office to search and bribe the actors for intel. You can be thrown to a prison cell and rescue the teammates. There's even a historical brothel in the game. You can eat, drink, sleep, and play using game tokens, which can be obtained from completing the tasks or gambling at the casino. At night, there will be different festivities, ceremonies, and performances for you to participate. On 15th August, Youyu is launching a brand new immersive RPG game called Guitang for the 5th anniversary. The game is set in a 4-story building in the Tang Dynasty with 10,000 square meters in size and a total investment of $4.6 million. It takes on a sandbox game mechanics where the players have the freedom to change or influence the outcomes of the game. They can compete for the Champions League or special identities each season. A successful campaign will be entitled to special privileges within the game. The tokens can be stored and archived in a bank for the players to withdraw for the next visit. There are more than 200 tasks with 100 NPCs, and the changing room itself for costumes is more than 100 square meters with professional hair and makeup services. The ticket is currently priced at $88 per person. Leading organizations. Besides the leading companies, there are also 2 major organizations that are vital to the industry. First, the EPU. Escape Game Player Union is a NGO founded by a group of enthusiasts out of their passion in 2017. The founder, Kira, has so far completed 23 escape room expeditions to remote cities with more than 1,000 games. Initially, it started as a review platform to rank games based on themes, mechanics, puzzles, NPCs, etc. With time, it launched a discount membership card with more than 10 venues in Shanghai to 14,000 people. It also formed dozens of regional enthusiast groups on WeChat to help players to find teammates in different cities when games were still private. Soon, they realized that the ranking system mainly appealed to enthusiasts, not the general public, since the needs and comprehension of the games were significantly different between the two. Hence, its mission switched to change the public perception of the industry through social media in order to make escape rooms no longer a niche market. It gradually shifted towards a service provider that helps less developed companies to promote quality games. With more than 3 million subscribers and 600 videos across different social media, EPU has gradually become the first benchmark marketing platform for the industry. It also offers a multi-dimensional consultancy service for startups that tests, evaluates, and optimizes game designs. EGA, Escape Game Industry Alliance, was founded by Mi Shouchun with the nickname of Mr. Daza in October 2012. Daza refers to the person who does all the chores to serve everyone. It is the only professional and comprehensive service platform to promote the growth of the reality gaming industry centered around escape rooms in China. It provides entrepreneurs with a full range of consulting services, including planning, designing, constructing, and operational guidances, with more than 4,000 members nationwide. In 2017, it organized the first industry summit with approximately 70 participants in Shanghai and honored a selection of outstanding games with the EGA awards. Ever since, the annual summit has become the most influential event of the industry, attracting participants from the entire supply chain. The fifth summit was recently launched on June 22nd and 3rd this year in Hangzhou, with more than 2,500 participants from more than 1,000 companies and 70 exhibitors. The annual EGA Awards have also been widely recognized by both owners and players. In fact, an award-winning game is always in high demand in the market, with a considerably higher licensing fee than the rest. There are 8 categories under 9 regional and 1 national awards. Both Beijing and Shanghai are considered as a region itself. This year, 85 games stood out from a pool of 758 entries through both public and expert voting. It was the first time for EGA to include the award for top 10 cultural and innovative puzzle-based products, as well as the best game under the Immersive RPG category. In November 2017, EGA helped to establish the Reality Entertainment Society under China Culture and Entertainment Industry Association, formalizing industry standards and regulations. From 2019, the platform also offers free consultations for insurances and legal aids, including patent protection. Additionally, they also realized the proportion of newcomers in the market of 2019 exceeded 40%. However, 50% of the new venues will not be sustainable after a year. To help with the low survival rate in a highly competitive market, it launched a bootcamp for startups with more than 20 industry leaders in August 2020. Meanwhile, it also launched the first design competition for mini-scaled puzzle-centered games to promote creative designs for people lacking resources. The competition is now at the execution stage with 70 entries from 141 designers. The 10 finalists are copyright protected and will be constructed by licensed partners across the country for the public to play and vote. The designers will be entitled to 30% of the licensing revenue. In the near future, EGA is launching a centralized platform for standardized electronic contracts for game licensing and construction. Meanwhile, it's also working with China Central Television to produce an industry documentary covering 100 interviews. At last, I'd like to take this opportunity to showcase some of the best games in China. There were 9 games stood out nationally last year, ranging from 20 to 2,000 square meters. The length of the games varied from 70 to 270 minutes, and the tickets varied from $18 to $88 per person. It's worth noting that one of the best RPG games, Brotherhood of Blades, has a much bigger capacity of 52 players. Instead of a standalone experience, it adopted the online gaming mechanics to run 5 games in parallel in the same space under the Ming Dynasty. Immersive games are usually centered around NPCs. However, this game promotes interactions between players from different groups, since they need to trade, collaborate, and sometimes even cheat to obtain props and tokens. The game of the Dragon Village is highly appraised to be the ceiling for both execution and imagination of the industry, receiving 6 awards in total as the best scenic, best mechanic, and most innovative game in Shanghai and the entire nation. The game took 1 year to build from scratch, with an investment of $280,000 for the design stages and $400,000 for the construction. The game is a Chinese fantasy thriller known for sudden spatial transformations and unexpected mechanisms. There are letters popping off the walls and water spitting out of a dragon. One of the coolest moments of the game was a special effect to make raindrops stop mid-air and backflow with light and shadow, like in the movie Now You See Me. There are plenty of fighting plots with incredible visual and sound effects where the players are able to see the light tracing of the swords moving and hear the sound of clashing. I have included the trailer of the game in the video compilation. All of the indoor footages filmed on site. The actors, costumes, and performances are all parts of the actual game. Unfortunately, the special effects cannot be shown through cameras. I have also made a collage of photos taken inside different games as well as footages from the recent industry summit for you to see the current production quality of Chinese escape games. Let me finish the talk today with a quote from Maya Angelou. People will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. I believe that great escape rooms are the ones that resonate with our feelings. Hopefully, I've done my job today to show you the tip of the iceberg for the reality gaming industry in China. And I'd love to bring a lot more quality games from China to the rest of the world in the future. And thank you for listening.